Hey there, guys, it's Steven, and today we're going to do another podcast, and this one might be a bit out of recent events because we're recording this, I think it's Saturday right now, so it's going to be, we're not going to exactly have the latest breaking news, but since it's the holidays, I don't have a single day off after today, so we have to do what we have to do, and as usual, I'm with Jarrod, big, sexy nickel, and we're going to talk about stuff here, so I'll let Jarrod begin with some NPD sales data, I believe, and then we'll talk about random stuff. And there you go.
All right, great. I was going to say, I don't have a list of anything we're going to talk about.
Well, I can go ahead if you want.
No, it's okay. Okay, I'll talk about the big news. I don't know why the hell we didn't talk about. I think it probably because it broke on the Friday or Thursday late, and we usually record these on Wednesdays. But I don't have actual figures per se, but what we do know is that the Xbox One was the highest selling console in North America for November 2014, thereby destroying Sony's record, which would have been a year-long record of beating out the Xbox One. The PS4 had won 11 of the 12 months that it was available. So yeah, that was kind of a big deal, and I'm very happy for Microsoft. They realized that they really screwed the pooch with this one, and it sucks as an early adopter, I'm not going to lie, because I actually really enjoyed being able to turn my Xbox on with Kinect, and now I find, like, I'm not even using it. It's pretty much over. I've even been thinking of, like, disconnecting the thing because there's almost no point anymore, because I've been using my PlayStation 4 a lot lately with different third-party games. And so now I find I'm doing exactly what I do on my PS4 on my Xbox One, where I just press and hold the Xbox button to turn off the console, and I just press it to turn it on. So I'm kind of sad, like, in that aspect. I'm not sad that they lowered the price, because I think they really needed to do that, but it is sad that what's a really cool feature with Kinect is sort of now pretty much finished. But yeah, it just goes to show, Microsoft is making a lot of right decisions here by lowering the price of the console, by packing in a game or two, by removing Kinect, by getting rid of all those policies that people were upset with, or which actually never actually happened, which is kind of funny. I think this is good, and I congratulate them on that, because they listened to what their fan base was saying and what the market was saying. And they wanted to stay relevant. And what's interesting is that, guys, you could really argue that, they didn't need to do this. Now, I know that could be considered controversial, but seriously, if you look at the sales in relation to the Xbox 360, the Xbox One was outperforming the Xbox 360, even with all of this, scandal or whatever you want to call it happening. So, yeah, but I am happy that Microsoft did this. I'm pleased that that the system now is, really starting to move units. And so long as they can keep the games flowing and they can, keep things going like this, I think they'll have a really bright future ahead of them.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see Sony's response to this, because typically they do not like to get beaten. I remember very fondly in I think it was the sixth generation, sixth console generation, Sony was the clear winner there. They were dominating every month. And there was one particular game, Soul Calibur 2, which was a multi-platform game, and it ended up that for the month of its release, or the first few months, the GameCube one was the best-selling one. And what did Sony do? They bought the exclusive rights to Soul Calibur 3 to ensure it would never happen again. So I'm quite curious to see what they'll do, because I don't think they want the Xbox One to outsell the PS4 for 2 months in a row, when really it doesn't really make that much of a difference, because the PlayStation 4 is still selling a lot, even though it got outsold for 1 month, and it's going to continue selling a lot for the for the foreseeable future. But it's just Sony historically doesn't like when they get beat, so I'm quite curious to see what their strategy will be.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that myself, and I think right now we're talking about this sort of like from 40,000 feet away, right? Like if we had actual numbers, if we knew that the Xbox One outsold it by 500 million units, I think that would be a lot more telling, because if this is something like, oh, well, it won by 12,000, then I don't think there's really much Sony would really do. I mean, I think you're right in the sense they don't like it, but I don't think there would necessarily be a direct retaliation, but it really depends. If they outsold it by like 200,000 units or something, then hell yeah, then I would assume they don't want Microsoft to gain any momentum like whatsoever. But I also wonder worldwide how things are going. Like, how is the Xbox One versus PlayStation 4 performing in Europe? I mean, Japan is a no-brainer, but in Europe, I'd be curious to see how things are going there. And I think next year is going to be very telling. I mean, Microsoft did everything in its power to pretty much, make its comeback. It released Sunset Overdrive, which was an original IP by a Sony developer, Insomniac, and it's a really fun game. They released the Halo Master Chief Collection, which was awesome. They had Titanfall. They really brought it this year. And the thing is, what would be interesting to see is, can they establish their momentum going into next year where potentially, now this is potentially, I don't know, but potentially where they don't have quite as many, huge releases. That doesn't necessarily mean that's true. But on the flip side with Sony, what will be interesting is that this year, to be really fair, they had nothing. Like, really, they had The Last of Us, and that's about it. I mean, Drive Club was, like, just from launch was a disaster. They had Little Big Planet 3, which is great, but that's not going to go up against Halo. So I think it'll be very interesting next year to see how things go. But I do agree with you. If the depending on how bad of a beating they got, Sony really does not like that. So it'll be curious to see. Maybe they'll do something crazy like purchase the exclusivity to Street Fighter V.
We'll have to wait and see. And next, I want to talk a bit about some Nintendo numbers, because Nintendo had a very good month also in November. They sold the most Wii U's ever. That they, even since launch, I believe, and those were highly impressive. However, they did not sell as much as they would to potentially meet their target for the end of the fiscal year. But still, things are looking better than they were at this point last year, and still we can pretty much say with confidence that the Wii U's never gonna catch up, or never come even close to matching the Wii numbers. All we can hope now is that it can surpass the GameCube numbers eventually. And Nintendo doesn't, not that they don't care, but they realize that there's not much they can do. They already fuck up too much with the launch. So all they can do now is keep on pushing quality titles and hope they get some software sale. On the 3DS front, Pokemon Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby did extremely well, selling 1.5 million in the US alone during its first month, which is something that I found really weird, though, on the NPD charts. They put Smash Bros. 3DS and Wii U on the same, as they consider them the same game, so they put the sales together. This Wii U version actually sold 700,000 units, which is pretty good for a Wii U title in its first month. But for Pokemon, which is weird, because both Smash Bros. Are not really the same game. But both Pokemon titles are pretty much the exact same title, but they each get a different spot. So Alpha Sapphire debuted at number 5, and Omega Ruby debuted at number 7. But really, these two should be put together. So if that was the case, I'm pretty confident that they would have debuted at number 2 right after Call of Duty. But still, that's a weird little thing that I wanted to notice, that I found was extremely weird for them to put Smash Brothers together but Pokemon apart.
Yeah, that is weird. That I could say, oh well, it's because the name, but it's Super Smash Brothers for Wii U and Super Smash Brothers for 3DS, so it's not. Yeah, I don't know. That's really odd, man. That's really, really odd. But you're right. Nintendo, I believe you're absolutely right that Nintendo had the best, the strongest selling of the Wii U since launch. And let's be honest, I don't think that really should surprise many people. The biggest game of the year for the Wii U is out, and people are reacting. People are really, really happy with this. And like you said, I think the most important thing moving forward for Nintendo, I think, is going to be, can they maintain first-party releases to keep people interested enough so that the sales are at least there? Not necessarily, like, oh, we're going to bring it to the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. I think they realize that that's just not going to happen. But can, like I said, can they surpass the GameCube? And I hope so, because the Wii U is actually a phenomenal system, and it's such a shame that Nintendo made so many stupid mistakes at launch.
Yeah, and they also revealed that Amiibos sold extremely well. They said that it matched Smash Brothers, which I doubt, because Smash Brothers sold 700,000. I don't think they sold 700,000 Amiibos, because if they did, they would have probably told us we sold 700,000 Amiibos instead of saying they matched Smash Brothers. But I'm pretty sure they sold close to 500,000, because most people that bought Smash also bought an Amiibo or two, and a lot like you and I bought the whole set, so I'm pretty sure they sold a lot of Amiibos, and that's what is going to be our next subject, because Nintendo has some history of doing stuff like Amiibos and things like that, and then completely ignoring that a few months after. Do you remember a certain thing called the e-reader for the Game Boy Advance?
Yep.
And whatever happened to that? Absolutely
Exactly.
nothing. So I'm very fearful, because Amiibos are kick-ass. We both love them. Not everybody love them, that's fine, but we both are in love with those damn little figures. And already I've played a lot of Smash, and I see potential. Like, for some reason, we can't play the single-player campaign Smash. We can play it co-op with a friend, but why can't we play with an Amiibo? That's an easy fix. That's something that should be added in the game. But will it? I doubt it, because it's Nintendo. They don't typically think about simple stuff like that adding, because I think Amiibo was an afterthought that they created after they were already developing Smash, and they added some good features to Smash with Amiibos, but there's so much more they could do. And I'll let you talk for a bit, because I have some game ideas that I'd really like them to do, but we have a lot to talk about Amiibos, so I'll give you the mic for a bit.
Okay. I've wanted to talk about Amiibos for a while, just in general, because Nintendo is not the brightest company out there, and I'm sorry if that insults anyone, but hey, that's just the way it is. Nintendo's done a lot of very innovative and very creative things over the years with their different products and sub-products and this and that and everything else, and to me, this was an absolute no-brainer. Once I saw Skylanders, we never actually, we weren't doing podcasts, or even if we were, I never really thought to mention this, but the first thing that I thought of when I saw Skylanders was Nintendo. Before Disney, before anything, I thought Nintendo, because I was like, wow, they have so many characters that they could do something like that, like have a dedicated game where they have all these different figures, and nothing happened. And then Disney announced that they were going to be copying Skylanders with Disney Infinity, and like I've already said, right now, I'm telling you, right now, next year's Disney Infinity 3.0, the figures will not be Marvel characters, they will not be Disney characters, they will be Star Wars characters. I can guarantee you that Disney Infinity 3.0 is going to be Star Wars, for sure, and they are going to sell millions of these things, because that's just the way it is. So the thing that really caught me off guard, this is the first thing I wanted to mention, was the fact that Nintendo didn't expect these to sell well. I don't get that. Like, I'm totally lost. Like, they just talked about, well, we never really, like, yeah, whatever. Like, it didn't even make sense. Like, what their press release was saying was sort of like, well, we're not going to keep selling these things forever. Not every character are we going to have available forever. And my thing is this: what do you mean forever? It's like you just did one printing of these figures, and you're already talking about, well, some of them didn't sell well, so we're just going to discontinue those and be done with it. And the reason why they can do that right now, and it's quote-unquote okay, is because there isn't a dedicated game developed around the Amiibos. Like you said, they were sort of like an afterthought, and it's just the hardcore Nintendo fans like us and others are sort of like, wow, these not only do they look great, but they have some interesting functionality across like a multitude of games, and there's some real potential there, which you're gonna jump in just a sec. But for me, it's just I don't like the fact that they're already saying like Marth, the Villager, and the Wii Fit Trainer aren't really going to be put back into production because they didn't really perform well. And I don't get that. It's like, well, whoa, guys, it's been like a few weeks. How can you say that, that anything has performed well? You're basing this off of one bloody game. Like, give it a chance. I don't know. It just seems to me like I'm worried that Nintendo with these things is going to not take this serious. They're going to release maybe 4 waves of characters, and then that's that. But one thing, in Japan's third-party games are starting to use Amiibo characters. So there is hope that Nintendo will continue these things, but I don't know. Nintendo's track record with these sorts of things is not the greatest.
No, it isn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't finish the whole set of Smash Brothers characters, which would be extremely disappointing. I really hope they do, because there are some obscure characters like Mart and Wii Fit Trainer and even the Villager and upcoming Little Mac that not many people is not as popular or a well-known name as Link and Mario and even Samus and Kirby, to name a few. So that's why I wouldn't be surprised if they don't release the whole set, but I hope they do. Like I haven't caught the whole they didn't sell well thing, but maybe I missed that. But like the Villager, Wii Fit Trainer, and Mart are 3 figures that are sold out everywhere, and the reason for that is probably because of limited release, and that's fine because everybody knew that these weren't probably the 3 figures that will sell the least out of the bunch. But still, there's no reason to make, like, let's make another 500 Marts, another 100 Villagers, or another 100 Wii Fit Use. These things cost nothing to create, and they'll sell instantly. You don't need to do it now, but eventually you can make another limited run of the first wave of Amiibos, because you have to understand that they need shelf space. They won't, like, there's 49 characters in Smash Brothers, I believe, and I don't think they'll have 49 shelf space for ever in store. So they need to make space for the new toys that are coming out eventually. But if they would do the smart thing, they would follow what other toy companies have done for years and years and actually release the first wave characters here and there, release a few more, because you need to keep a strong core of the originals and the new toys at the same place so parents and kids can buy them over and over again. So it's smart strategy, and they need to figure out a better way. I think that the success did catch them off guard, but they need to react to this. This is an easy way to make money. Like they're not making as much money on their Wii U franchise as they was with their Wii name, but now they have these little things that are pretty cheap to produce and can make a lot of profit and are selling really hot right now. So capitalize on it and start producing more toys and announce the next waves, and don't be afraid to hype them.
You see, that's just it. And it's not so much that they didn't perform. I guess I said that incorrectly. It's just that they released a list of the most popular Amiibo figures, and at the bottom of the list were some of these more obscure characters. However, they didn't have the same print run as the more popular characters. So to me, it's not fair to say that Marth, for example, is not as popular as Link in terms of the Amiibo figures. If you printed 200,000 Links and 400 Marths, well, no shit, he's not going to be as popular. You know what I mean? Like you said, they're sold out everywhere. Like everywhere, these things are sold out. And it just, I don't get it. To me, I just don't understand. It's like you said, if you know anything about the toy industry, that's exactly what they do. They continue their waves for new figures, and then in slower seasons, they'll reprint the original waves so that kids can have all the figures. If we look, what's something that kids would play with today? Well, let's say Turtles. So, like, let's say there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the first wave would have the 4 turtles. You'd have Splinter, April, and Shredder. Okay, there you go. That's your first wave. And then in 2 months' time, the next wave comes out, which is going to have Rocksteady, Bebop, some of the Foot Clan soldiers, etc., etc., etc. But they're no longer going to print wave 1 because that's already been done. Right? They'll have, like, Attack Swinging Michelangelo and, Super Deluxe Donatello and whatever. But during some other, parts of the year or whatever, they'll throw in a couple of the Wave 1 figures like the regular Shredder or the regular Splinter or things like that in order for people to have the whole set if they're interested. And that's just the way it is. And so it's the same thing with this. Like, I just don't get why they're already talking about discontinuing some of these characters. It just seems way too early to be talking like that. It's just considering they just got released. I mean, goodness sakes, Wave 2 comes out, next week, I think?
I believe
or the week
so.
After?
At worst case scenario, just release them on your online store. Like, make a limited run on your online store just to keep the interest going and make some easy money.
Exactly. Like, I don't know if you know this, but stuff like Masters of the Universe or He-Man or Star Wars or Transformers or whatever, there are actually adult collector clubs now where you cannot buy them in stores. You can only buy them online, and you have to pay for, say, a whole year. You pay $20 to $25 a figure, and you're locked in for a year. There's no way of canceling it. That's it. You're in for, say, I don't know, $400 a year or something. Nintendo could very easily do something like that. For me, this is a massive potential for the company to make some serious money.
And these are collector's items. It's easy to see. Like, you and I, we both put them out of the box and play with them, but for somebody, because these would look nice to display on a shelf, even if you keep them in their original packaging, they still look very nice. So I just can't imagine how much a full collection will be worth in 10 years. I'm pretty sure we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars if somebody would be to invest in these and keep them in their box and put them on somewhere and just display them. These are going to be worth a lot of money. So I don't know why Nintendo is kind of trying to tell people, we might make more. No, just hide those fuckers. These are printing money for you. I don't know what part of money don't you like, but I don't know. It's crazy. It's weird.
It is weird. And the thing is, we're going to make this even more weird because I want you to talk about some of the potential that Nintendo is obviously not seeing with the Amiibo. What else could they be doing, or what games or what ideas do you have for the future of this sort of platform?
Yeah, well, you pretty much nailed it in the beginning when you said they don't have a full Amiibo dedicated game. All they had is they have it in Smash and Hyrule Warriors and Mario Kart 8 and future support for Captain Toad and other games, but they don't really have a game that requires Amiibos to play, kind of like Skylanders or Disney Infinity. And I really think these characters, probably in the Toys to Life category, are the best characters you can have in a video game. So imagine if Nintendo were to team up with somebody or just create it themselves, create an actual RPG game where you were a main character, not set in the Nintendo universe, mind you, but set in a fictional universe. Well, fictional, it's all fictional, but set in the universe with an original storyline, kind of like maybe Mario RPG, but with an original universe, and your main character would actually have help from 4 party members. Those 4 party members could be either one of the 49 Amiibos that are going to be eventually released. So you could have a Link in your party, you could have Little Mac in your party, you could have Peach in your party, you could have Shulk in your party, and train these guys up however you see fit, and then you'd save that information onto that character. But the thing is, the Link would not have the same movesets as Donkey Kong, or Fox would not have the same attributes as Yoshi. So this would be like an amazing RPG with so much replay value, because you have basically, it's kind of like the same thing that makes Pokemon so addictive, is that there's basically over 700 different characters in it for you to train. So that would be the same thing, but you also have this story that you can bring to your friend's house and then help him in the same game, help him up. You could play co-op, help him with your characters and stuff like that. This is just a no-brainer for me. And I fear they will never seize this opportunity, because this would not only continue, because Amiibo right now is a mainstream success, but if they make a game like that, the hardcore, this would be so big, and it would get both the hardcore and mainstream in the same. And I fear that what they're going to do with Amiibo instead is just a Wii Sports type title, just a quick type of a Wii Party title that with Amiibo, just to a quick cash in. but there's an opportunity to make such an epic game here. And it's frustrating that I believe it will never happen, because this dream game I just discussed right now has so much potential. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but it could be like the game of the year for me.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, man. And as you're talking, I'm sitting there and I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, yeah, that's never going to happen. But I said the same thing about A Link to the Past, a sequel to A Link to the Past. So I guess, you can never say never. But I don't know. I think Nintendo, in a lot of ways, is allergic to money. And they just, like, I don't get them sometimes. I really don't. And yeah, for this, like, personally, I think they were just grasping at straws when, when their financials were coming out and they were losing money, and they were just like, hey, look, we're going to release these figures, they're going to come to life, and we're going to have it, Smash Brothers, it's going to have something to do with Smash Brothers, and yeah, you're going to love it. And now that it is this huge, giant success, I really, like, now is the time to say, you know what, guys, yeah, we are going to actually develop like an Amiibo game or a game line or something. I really hope it's not a quick cash-in, because that would be really pathetic. Because like you said, they could strike a nice balance. Like they could release, like you said, some sort of an RPG that would have, let's say, 3 exclusive Amiibo figures in it, okay? And that way, so you think of it like Disney Infinity. If you guys haven't seen, I've done like unboxing videos of these over the last couple of years. So you would get a couple of figures with the game. And why do that? Well, you have to do that because there will be some people who would just buy the game and not have any figures. Either they can't afford them or whatever. And I know some people are going to say, oh, but there could be licensing issues because Mega Man is an Amiibo figure, Sonic's an Amiibo figure. What if those respective companies don't want to allow them? Well, hey, guess what? You just don't allow them. Simple as that. It's not a big deal. But for all, like the vast majority of the Amiibo figures are going to be Nintendo-owned properties. So, yeah, I mean, that'd be awesome. I would love that. I'd love to just be able to pick up this game. It comes with, say, like fire-throwing Mario and, I don't know, like 2 other characters. And then you could use any of your other Amiibos that you have, and you're good to go. And, yeah, I could imagine quite a few different scenarios here. I could imagine... I'm not entirely sure how this would work, but like whatever active party you have would gain levels, and you could swap out characters to gain additional levels. The only thing with that is that would be a hell of a lot of grading, but I could definitely see that where you would go to your friend's house and you could, take your character and join it into your friend's game, and any levels that you gained or whatever would then save back to the character so you could bring it back home, blah, blah, blah.
Would it be fun to grind those characters, though? Like, let's say the only way to get a healer is to use, like, a Rosalina or a Peach. That would be your healer. And Link would be a warrior, Mark II. And, they would different be class, but you have to use a specific Amiibo for those class. Like, I think that would be awesome. And grinding...
me too. No, I do too. And, you would have to grind for sure. But as long as they don't have the exact same... features, like let's say think of it like let's say, okay, I don't know, you have 2 healers, right? But as long as they don't have the exact same moveset, because if you have the exact moveset, that's boring.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like each of the 49 Amiibos would have a different moveset and would learn different moves as they level up and stuff like that. That would be like, it's not like Game Freak has over 700 characters in their Pokemon series, and they all learn different moves and stuff. So it wouldn't be that complicated to do it for 49 characters.
No, exactly. And who says 49,
I'm just saying that's what there's going to be, but let's say you remove the third-party ones and you add a few more, let's say around 50, 60 characters. The money they could make with that franchise would be, like, limitless.
I agree. I really do. And I really hope that someone at Nintendo is paying attention to these things, because I am. I don't know. There's something about it that I'm really worried we're going to get the 3 waves that they already announced, and that's it.
Yeah, well, let's hope they wake up, because this is something that's really, really cool. We're having a blast with that, and I really want them to at least get to all the 49 characters. At least get to that, and then maybe think about doing some other stuff.
And I guess that's it.
And I think we'll talk a bit about some. I just wanted to talk about. You might have seen my unboxing video. You probably not, but we've talked about that in the last podcast. That I got a brand new 3DS from Japan, from my good old friend Jarrod Nickel, and it was really funny because as you're setting up the 3DS, everything is in Japanese, and I didn't have a hard time, but basically I had no clue what I was doing. My only thing was that there was always two options at the bottom, and I figured out really fast that one was yes or one was no. Well, at least I think that was it, because I kept pushing on the right button, and it kept putting me on the other screen, so that was good. There was a certain time where I was a bit lost because they wanted me to set up the parental controls or something like that, but there was like 10 different options, and all the options would bring you to a keyboard and you have to write something. So eventually I wrote some bullshit and was able to move on, and then I was able to actually connect my 3DS online, which was also hard to do, but that are fun times. And I thought you could just talk about some of your earlier import memories, especially with Famicom and Super Famicom RPGs, which must have been hard to play back in the day.
Well, I've talked about this quite a few times over the years, but yeah, what was fun back then, I wasn't alone. At least at the beginning, I wasn't alone. I had a friend who was Japanese, so it was I basically quote unquote played. He was telling me exactly what to do. But you're right. When I got home, that's where things were really, really interesting. But it's amazing how you adapt, and you guys are going to see this with the Dragon Quest 10 walkthrough if you watch it, because like as I'm going along, I'm going to start whining, which is what I do best. And because you get frustrated, right? Like you're like lost. You have no idea what you're doing, where you're supposed to go, what's happening. But it's different. That's an MMO, so I mean that's a whole other ball game. But back in the day with standard RPGs, I learned so many different things, like where you would just go in a village, talk to everybody, and you would learn. You'd start to learn the language even without realizing it, especially back then when he had no courses or anything like that. You would be like, okay, well, I know what these symbols represent. These symbols represent yes. These symbols represent no. This is fire. This is heal. This is herb. This is, like a phoenix down. This is whatever. But for Dragon Quest in particular, especially when it went on the SNES, that was very, very interesting because it was such a huge leap compared to Dragon Warrior 1 through 4 on the NES that I pretty much had to relearn the entire game, because everything, that's where they started to have the, what the hell was it called? The action button, where you could just go up to someone and talk without having to go into the menu system, where you could just walk downstairs and things. So there was a lot of stuff that I had to learn, but the sense of accomplishment that you get from beating a game in such a foreign language, like it's not as impressive when you beat a game in say French, Spanish, Italian, something like that, as an English speaker, because they're still Latin based. Like the actual alphabet is still the same. But when you beat a game, say, I don't know, like in Russian or in Arabic or in Japanese, that's quite an accomplishment, because it's totally different. You have nothing that you can relate to. And so, like I was telling you, Steven, when you had your 3DS, the one good thing with you is if you got really lost, all you needed to do was boot up your North American one and follow, because they're exactly the same. So you could just go and say, like, okay, well, how do I set up an internet connection on my 3DS? Well, I go into options. Well, just follow it on your Japanese one. But you can't do that sort of stuff with games. Yes, today with YouTube, it's a lot easier. But I'll tell you, if you guys want to experience what I used to experience on the Famicom and the Super Famicom days, go ahead and watch my Dragon Quest 10 walkthrough there, because that will really show you what it's like, because there are very few videos out there, number one, period, okay? Like, there's a lot of videos out there in Japanese, of course, but I can't find any with the ogre that I'm doing and an actual playthrough. I see a lot of people are doing different sections or segments or whatever, and then in English it's even, like, there's like, what, 2 people probably, there's something like that have done any videos at all. And most of those are all scrambled up, like they've been cut. So there'll be like certain, couple of videos, like say on the beginning sections, couple of videos on the online section, and then they fast forward like 20 hours into the game or something like that. So that's the closest you'll get to recapturing that feeling of frustration and then joy when you realize that you've done something right and whatever. Because today with the internet, it's just not the same. If you have any trouble with imports now, even if you really want to follow along, I guarantee you someone has done a Dragon Quest VII Let's Play on YouTube in English, because there has to be. It's an offline game. There's got to be someone that you could follow along.
Yeah, you're right. And I actually started importing game when I met you, like maybe 10 years ago. I don't remember. It was during the Game Boy Advance days and the GameCube days. And I did actually beat a few Japanese games. And you're right, it's actually quite the accomplishment when you do. I never actually completed a JRPG, which you need to actually figure out where to go. Sometimes you need to get an item and stuff like that, so it's a lot more complicated. But I did manage to complete a Fire Emblem game on the GameCube, which, while you don't really need to figure out where you go because it's mission type based, you still need to figure out commands and learn new moves and stuff like that. So it is something special and something that's hard to explain, the feeling of playing an import game. So it's something that I miss because I don't do that anymore. There's not really any need, but now I might start again since you've got me a Japanese 3DS, but there's not really any need now since most games are released worldwide and sometimes they even come out here before. Usually they took a year or months to come here. So yeah, it's fun and I really enjoy that. And you're absolutely right that I could have followed along with the North American 3DS, and that was my last option, but I just wanted to try and see if I could do it, and I did. So yeah.
And there are some games, I'm not kidding, there are some really, well, they look good. I haven't bought any myself yet, but there are some 3DS games that have only been released in Japan that look damn good, man. You should also play Dragon Quest X, damn you.
Yeah, but won't I need like some, like to hide my IP and stuff like that?
Yeah, I can show you how to do that. That's easy. You see, you have no excuse anymore, damn you.
But
you could,
yeah, that'll be fun. We'll talk about that later.
I could just see Steven now. That would be, oh man, that would be a video.
I have trouble like setting the clock on my microwave. So imagine trying to hide my IP.
Oh, there goes the internet. That's it. He never has it again. Oh, that would be fun. We'll have to try that though, because that would be quite something. All
right, well, I think they'll do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this latest Canadian Gamers podcast, and I'll let Jarrod say the last few words.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Hopefully no late-breaking, massive news happens. And do you think we'll have another chance to do one of these prior to the new year, or you think this will be it?
Probably this will be it, yeah. So we'll see. We'll try. Maybe we'll do a special holiday-themed one.
Ooh, those are the best. All right, guys. So take care, everyone. We'll be back soon. And if we're not, you all have a very happy holidays and a wonderful new year.